Welcome to Please Me, the podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me ahora tiene subtítulos en español. And welcome to my Friday bonus episode series. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. On Wednesday, I kicked off a two-part episode with Carolee and Britton Beckham, sharing their powerful journey from growing up in a Mormon household to completely redefining their worldview. Their transformation is a deep dive into connection, sex magic, and awakening the divine feminine. Sexuality plays a central role in their evolution, and their story is truly captivating. If you haven't yet, listen to part 1, then dive into part 2, available now. Did you know that podcasts rely on listener support to keep bringing you the content you love? For the best way to support the show, join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, early releases, bonus episodes, and exclusive content. See show notes for the link. Got a burning question or want a free 10-minute consultation with me? Download the OWL app and give me a call. Check the show notes for my code to get $10 toward your first chat. Please Me is for mature audiences. Sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
This very idea of definition of the relationship and what it could be was something that was a deep part of the journey of healing that we were on. We really wanted to gain clarity, right?
ASN Lifestyle Magazine is your go-to source for sex-positive, sophisticated content covering.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Enter the world of sports the way you want with EA Sports College Football 26. Whether you rise through the ranks as a coach or chase greatness from high school recruit to Heisman, build your legacy and wear your colors with pride. Buy College Football 26 now at go.ea.com/MVP-bundle and bring glory home today. EA Sports College Football 26 is rated E for everyone. Includes in-game purchases, including random items.
The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
I'm Livy Dunn, All-American gymnast and Viore athlete. When you travel and train as much as I do, you find happiness where you are. On the mat or on the sand, movement and comfort are essential. That's why I live in Performance Joggers by Viore. Made from DreamKnit fabric that's made of 89% recycled materials, effortlessly soft and made to move as much as I do. My happiness starts here, in the softest joggers on the planet. Get 20% off your first purchase at Viore.com/Livy. That's VUORI.com/LIVVY. Exclusions apply. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to Viore.com/Livy and discover the full versatility of Viore clothing. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to Carvana. Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Everything from the swinger lifestyle and adult entertainment to intimacy, wellness, and more. You can read every digital issue for free, and subscribers get access to exclusive content. See the show notes for the link to subscribe and check out their Instagram. I'm excited to share that I now have a monthly column in ASN called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. Don't miss it and subscribe today. Welcome back to Please Me Podcast. If you caught part 1 of my conversation with Carolee and Britton Beckham, you know we just started to scratch the surface of their powerful transformation. Today, we pick right back up where we left off, diving even deeper into their journey of spiritual awakening, sexuality, and reclaiming the divine feminine. Let's get back into it. And so I want to jump into now the work that you've created out of all of these experiences. And you're currently writing a book, which is really exciting. And you just started this new podcast. What is ritual shadow work? What exactly is that?
You want me to go first, or?
I love how you describe the shadows. Yeah. I'm to start with that, and then I'll.
So, first of all, shadow work is a term coined in the teachings of Carl Jung, and he, in his philosophies exploring the psyche, the human psyche, talks about the unconscious aspects of our body and mind, and that is the shadow. And that shadow is unconscious, so it doesn't have awareness like the rest of whatever is going through our regular awareness. And so it's its own entity. I like to portray the ego as its own entity that we're trying to express through, but it also can take control and play out things like, for example, infidelity and some of the extreme behaviors, but it also can take control over us through addiction and everything. So shadow work is just the ability to go into the darkness, cast the light of awareness on it. Why do I do this? Why is this happening? Why am I here? Starting to ask the questions to the mind and allowing the intuition to pick up this is going into the feminine. So that's why when I started going into the divine feminine with Carolee, shadow work is what it's all about. You're going into the inner dimensions. You're accessing your intuition, your feelings. You're trying to let the analyzer you are turning off the analyzer and allowing full expression of these energies through a non-judgmental curiosity. And essentially, that's what shadow work is. And when you do this work, this is the healing work. This is where you heal your spirit, you heal your emotional body, you heal the pain body, and you integrate your ego so that you and your ego are actually one instead of two different entities or multiple entities that are trying to express through the body. We've ritualized this and accessed and used the astrological stuff that kind of Carolee was mentioning earlier, and intersected that with sacred sexuality to create a very potent container to do your shadow work in. So shadow work is just another term for healing. You've obviously healed a lot to get to the point where you can host this podcast and talk about pleasure and talk about all the things that you can tap into and how fun and exciting it is. And there's no shame around it. All that's been through your healing journey, right? And we've had a similar journey of healing that. But there's so much more to heal in life. It's not just about your sex, obviously, although that's an incredibly important part, but healing your relationships with your family, your parents, your ancestors, all the things, right? And so that's just one nice, useful word, shadow work, to talk about all of that healing in that regard.
Yeah. And so how we've ritualized it really actually had to do with what I already disclosed or shared, was the moon connection. Astrologically speaking, each one of the planetary bodies in the sky has something that it's connected to, right? Growing up, my parents would read the book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And there's some truth to that. But honestly, Mars is a planet, Venus is a planet, and it had its own, both planets were in a specific position in the sky at the moment of our birth. And when you look at each individual's unique blueprint, look at where their Venus was, look at where their Mars was, look at where the moon was, you begin to create a really beautifully diverse, unique picture of each individual soul. We work with the moon because the moon, out of all of the energies, the moon rules our emotions. The moon focuses on the emotional body, and where your moon is when you were born impacts how you show up in the world with your own emotional health, how you can feed your emotional health, but also where the moon is in the sky right now is impacting each one of us. It's impacting the collective with specific themes, but impacting each one of us individually too. So the way that we do is we set ritual. Ritual often starts with that kind of spiritual container of creating a space, lighting candles, having incense, having specific music, and really seeing the moon as the goddess in form who's saying, hello, you've got some shadows here, right? Because healing doesn't end. Some people, I've seen memes online, and it's like, I have to heal from my healing. And in a lot of ways, we feel that. But when you can look at all of it of, oh no, I'm on this forever path of becoming the highest, best, most embodied, happiest version of myself, let's see what the moon is teaching me today. So we look at what the moon is teaching us in the present, and then ask journaling questions or do something called scripting, where it's like you write about the future as if it's in the present, and you really call in the emotional body of that joy, of that bliss, and you just work in this conscious way around the themes. And then, like Britton said, we do all of this. We do this inner work, we do inner reflection, we connect in a sacred container that's got a lot of parameters that are very ritual based. And then often, almost always, we close that with our own intimate connection with each other. And we drop into our bodies and really feel the vibration either through the release. Before we went to ISTA, one of my shadows that I identified that was blocking me from my own embodiment was, oh, embodied women are trashy, and I don't hold that belief at all anymore. In fact, the minute I identified it, and it took me like half an hour almost to even say it, but the minute I had him as a sacred mirror and a sacred witness, seeing me have the courage to say, embodied women are trashy and I don't want to be trashy, so I can't therefore be embodied. I called in a new experience to allow myself to witness women that were embodied who I could view as the very opposite of trashy, the embodiment of the goddess. And
Yes.
I received that reprogramming. See,
At ISTA, yeah.
yeah, at ISTA. So it's like this awareness. Ram Dass says, I am loving awareness. And I think that's a really big key. We can't change things about ourselves until we're aware of what's there, what's been running the show. And sometimes it's our own activities, our own actions, our own childhood traumas, our own stories. But also, we've found that there's been family patterns and generational influences, and being able to sit with that through these lunation themes, through these journaling and scripting practices, and then anchoring the new truths into our bodies through bliss, through orgasmic bliss, through sex magic, has, like Britton said, it's literally completely sped up our healing process, like jump started us into a completely different timeline. It's really helped, but it was important for us to find inner safety first to really do that work and to continue to hold the container of healing in our partnership. So that, yeah, there's a lot there.
I love that you tie in the sex magic with the ritual shadow work, right? After creating this ritual and all of your intentions, etc., you seal it with a kiss and some orgasms, right? Which I think is beautiful, because really, when you are that sexual space, it really is a divine space that you can really connect with your creativity and your connection with the divinity, whatever divinity you believe in, right? And so I love how that has transformed your lives. And I'm just curious, because I know that throughout your relationship, opening the relationship was something that was really important for Britton. And Carolee, that was something that you really struggled with, because if you're thinking that like an embodied woman is a whore or a slut or whatever, and now you've been able to throw that idea out and to really understand that is really tapping into your divine feminine, how do you now, and you've actually been able to have some experiences outside of your marriage on both sides, not just Britton experiencing other relationships, but also Carolee, you brought in like another man, and maybe since I've listened to your show, that's happened multiple times. I don't know. But how do you describe your relationship now in terms of your relationship style? And I'll just mention here that I consider myself polyamorous. I believe that love is infinite. And I believe that you can love more than one person. I'm also bisexual. That's something that I have found through my own sexual journey and sexual liberation, is that I can find myself attracted to and want relationship with a woman as well. And so that's something that I discovered through my healing journey, and considering myself now polyamorous as opposed to monogamous, which is what society taught us was the best way to be in a relationship. And so I'm just curious how you define your relationship now.
That's a really good question. This very idea of definition of the relationship and what it could be was something that was a deep part of the journey of healing that we were on. We really wanted to gain clarity, right? As the woman who was betrayed, the idea of opening up and allowing other people's energy into my field sexually also triggered my trauma. It was terrifying, and especially in those early years back. Yeah, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of holding back. There was a lot of I can't move. And here I really wanted this relationship to work out, but also we both realized like we had to do like a pause on making any decision one way or another if we were going to stay or go together. And that pause on us gave us permission to like get to know ourselves individually better. And Britton said when he got to know himself individually better, he realized, hey, I'm a bit more of a rebel in how I want to relate with others. I'm very sexually curious. I'm not as attached to having to mean something. I really want to play. But me, and all of this actually I won't go into it, but we actually can see this exact thing on his birth chart, where his Venus was when he was born speaks to these energies being his blueprint. My energies, on the
That's
other
got to
hand,
be my blueprint too, then, because, and I don't know what my blueprint is, but I'm curious to see if that would be the case for me too, because I am very sexually like curious. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. For those who are like, oh, I got to look. Britton's Venus is in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is the sacred rebel. Aquarius is love to do things different, non-traditional. So in the we have so many friends that are polyamorous that move in this very open relating space. And in general, their Venuses are usually in either two places, in Gemini or in Aquarius. And there's just a new radical way of relating that is part of the makeup of those particular blueprints. When we had an astrological reading, when I had one for myself, my astrologer looked at my chart and said, if there is a placement, a Venus placement that's monogamous, it's yours.
Okay.
So here we had my Venus is in Taurus,
right?
Yeah, so Taurus is stubborn and slow and wants to be safe and doesn't really want to go outside of the box. In other ways, I'm completely rebellious and outside of the box. But in my love relationship, and especially because of the wounding that I've experienced with him and the wounding, one of the betrayals in our story of the betrayal happened by a woman that I trusted, that I thought was close, that I thought was a friend of mine, right? So I had friends betraying me, my lover betraying me. And so I move in these spaces a lot more tenderly, slowly, carefully, but also I have my own kinky side that really wanted to play. So in order to get to the point where we both felt safe, it required a lot of inner work to understand ourselves uniquely, and then see in those early phases, we felt like there was a lot of compromise. In order for Britton to have his ideal relationship, I had to change. In order for him to have, or me to have my ideal relationship, he had to change. And There was a point with radical honesty. We were at this point in our story, we were living in Bali on the North Shore. And one of the moments of, I can't believe I have this truth that I'm so scared to tell him was, what if I'm monogamous? We had already experimented with playing with others. I had self-betrayed in almost every single situation. I really pushed. I was courageous. I was willing to challenge my fears. I was willing to try. ISTA helped me learn that I actually could have a no and I could have a yes. Before that, there was no programming of even knowing what a yes and a no felt like in the body. Like there was just, my internal makeup was quite different and not so radically free as Britton's. And I often, especially because I really wanted to be this embodied woman, I judged myself severely. And I was like, I'm not going to be quote unquote healed until I'm wanting to play with other people, just like all of my friends in these more open relating spaces naturally want to play. Like I had to see that I was also trying to change myself instead of finding myself in my happiness in those places. And so that was, there's so much more that I could say about that, but I'll leave it there. But to come full circle back to your question, all of this, these deep questions, I asked him, what if I'm monogamous and you really want to have these experiences that you're playing? But for me, when you play with others, that doesn't feel any different in my body than the betrayal. The only difference is I actually now know about it ahead of time and it's not a secret anymore. Like, how do we reconcile that? That felt almost insurmountable. But it was me clearly stating, are you polyamorous? Do you want other relationships? What, and him sitting with that we finally realized that none of these labels actually really accurately describe who we are as a couple and as individuals, but they are really good baseline. It's a really good kind of starting point. That labels all are helpful in determining where on the spectrum we want to fall, where we land. And yeah, I could keep going, but do you want to?
Basically, what we've come to realize is that in our union, like we're so committed to the divine union path, which is healing together, co-creating together, staying in alignment to raise a family together, all of that. So that is our core union, like, purpose. And so we focus in on that. And so you could say, in a way, we're very like monogamous. But we also, as I've explored my own sexuality and asked her to step into hers in the most gentle way I could, like, we've really come to this place where there's a third alternative where it harmonizes. At first, she couldn't stand the idea of stepping outside, even for her own pleasure. It had nothing to do with like me or anything. It's just like she couldn't find her own. But now she's really tapped into that. And we just love to be in those types of environments. It's taught us a lot actually about how to expand our own sexuality. So like when we go to these parties, like a BDSM kink party, and we're dressed up and we're having fun and we're relating, and just, it's not like these are orgies. Like a lot of people don't even know, they wouldn't even know, they would try to judge it first off, but these are really conscious parties and containers where people go and they're having fun. They're not like, a lot of it's not even penetrative sex or anything like that. So we go, we have fun, we learn new things, we take it back into our relationship, but we're also open to experiences that allow us to express our sovereignty. We know that we're sovereign beings, right? Like a relationship is not, a marriage is not an end all to a sexual exploration outside of that relationship. It's not that. So you get to define it. And what we've come to define it as is like, we're all in on each other 100%. We're not exploring additional poly partners or anything like that. But what we are open to is just having fun. And when the time is right and the container's right, then we can allow ourselves to explore and have fun.
I love that. And you bring the sovereignty up, which is exactly the next question that I was going to ask you, Carolee, because I know that you were trying to figure out like what exactly it was that women wanted, right? What is it that you truly want? And I think that what you realized was that you wanted complete freedom, right? And freedom from all of the systems too, right? Because if you grow up in a patriarchal society, as we all have in the US, whether you're Mormon or not, right? And know that the role of the woman is this, and then you're supposed to be a wife and you're supposed to be a mother, and you have all of these preconceived ideas of how you're supposed to be, that really ties you down in a lot of ways, right? And suddenly you don't have the sovereignty, you don't have the actual freedom that a man does, even if you are conceptually talking about all of these things as wanting to be free and etc. So I would love for you to just answer that question or talk about that a little bit in terms of like how you came to that realization that you wanted freedom and how you've been able to incorporate that into your life and your relationship.
Yeah, that's a great question and one of my favorite topics. So I'm going to do my very best to answer it very succinctly. I was reading a book called If Women Rose Rooted. And this book was all about the author, her journey into what she called the wasteland. And at this point in my life, I very much felt like I was in my own wasteland. And there's a lot of mythos that she pulls in. It's taps into kind of Celtic mythology and applying our own healing journey through the lens of storytelling. What can we tell about our own story? If we view ourselves as the hero or the heroine of our life, what does that journey look like? And that's part of the reason why the book is If Women Rose, but Rooted. So here I was really trying to heal and finding how I could root more into myself, because what I desperately longed for in my body somatically was safety and the root chakra and being rooted, and really it's all the same energy center. So this was a deep study of mine. And yeah, I was definitely in this idea of my own wasteland. Everything about my relationship and my life looked great on the outside, but my inner world was a bit of a mess and I really wasn't happy. And it was hard for me to be vulnerable and authentic and tell the truth outside of just us. And that was something I desired to be significantly different than what I was experiencing. So as I was reading this particular book that talked about this woman's similar journey, she came to a King Arthurian legend, which told this story about how King Arthur was challenged to find out the answer to the riddle, what do women want most? And he journeyed around and trying to discover and interviewed women all over the kingdom and couldn't come to a conclusive answer. But he ended up finding this old hag, this crone, hunched over woman who said, I knew the answer. And she demanded in payment to get married to one of his most gallant knights. And King Arthur was like, I'm going to marry off my knight to this old crone. But all of it worked out, right? And they come to the wedding day and they get married. And the knight is gallant and fair and excited and not treating this woman like she was this old crone, but just ready to make this step into his life. And it came to their wedding night and he turned around and in his room, instead of the old hag, was this incredibly gorgeous maiden, the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. And in the story, it says that he pulled back and he's like, what are you doing here? I just got married. You're not supposed to be here. And she admits, I'm actually your wife. And the version of me that everybody sees was because of a curse. And so now, as my husband, you get to decide, do you want this version by night or by day? And that, as I read this story, I was fascinated. Okay, what's he going to pick? If he picks the sexy woman by night, then his bed is shared in blissful fun with this goddess, but then everybody around him still knows or still thinks he's married to this crone, this old hag of a woman. If he chooses the opposite, then he's sleeping next to the old woman, but now everybody, it's like, what is he going to choose? And it made a strong impression on me. And he ended up saying to her, I actually don't think I can make that choice. What would you prefer? Like, you pick. And that single act of giving her over the freedom to choose how she wanted to be represented in the world actually set her completely free. And she was able to then be her goddess self 24/7. It wasn't just required tonight. And so the answer to the riddle was, what women want most is their sovereignty. And I realized at that moment that I had the possibility with this man right here next to me of being 100% sovereign. He was willing to stay beside me, to allow my healing, and to celebrate. Even if I had a connection outside of our partnership, if I wanted exploration, like, he was ready and excited to honor that for me. I just didn't know if I actually wanted that. But the part that got scary for me is I realized by me claiming my sovereignty, I couldn't deny him his. So that was challenging too, especially in the context of healing from betrayal. But I realized that it could look different than my fears said it would look, right? Our fears try to block us from taking the step towards healing because they say, oh, if you go down this path, all your worst nightmares are going to come true. But we've found actually the complete opposite when we've stood at the threshold of what scares us and what we're afraid of, and we've alchemized that fear. Fear is excitement. It's just
anxiety is excitement. But fear can be.
It's on the same spectrum of that emotion. I think I stand on a cliff edge and I jump into water, like cliff jumping. I feel a lot of fear doing that. I'm not somebody who does that very easily. In fact, 20, 30 minutes not making the decision to jump is me. Whereas somebody else who feels that same energy, they're viewing the fear that I feel as, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to just jump and it's going to be fun. And so it's like we've stood at these thresholds of what makes us scared and realized if I can just say this can be exciting to jump into the unknown and trust that I'm going to be okay. That principle has come around a time and time again and shown us, and it's been very liberating. So yeah, like when people ask me what made it, I've been asked before, why did you stay when it was so hard, when the betrayal was so significant, when the trauma in your body? And it's this answer. I had a man willing to be with me no matter what and honor my sovereignty. And I realized with or without him, that right there is what I wanted. I wanted a man who would honor my freedom, my independence, who would hear me, who would have a balanced relationship in parenting, in the creation of our business. And so I had that vision early on that with him, it actually could be possible, but we still felt a little far from it. But now we're literally living the embodiment of that level of sovereignty in our partnership, in the way we play, in the way we parent, in the way that we work together, in the way that we create our life. So I'm so grateful for that book. I'm grateful for that story of sovereignty and how it really actually spoke truth. It spoke truth to my soul that said, yeah, maybe other women might hear that and go, oh, that's not what I want. But my soul was like, yeah, that resonates. That's what I want. Can I do the work enough to feel it in my body and allow him to feel it? And it took time, but yeah, we've done that work, and it's been so liberating and so fun.
And talk about breaking the generational trauma and the cycle of generational trauma. This is so important for so many of us that have been through traumatic experiences, and you know how they sort of circle back if you don't address them, right? And so you guys have really taken that on, and infidelity is a symptom of something that's not working, right? And a lot of times people will just throw their entire relationship away because of that one experience or maybe multiple experiences. It's a symptom of something that isn't connected. And so instead of throwing away your relationship, you really jumped in even deeper into the relationship to really heal it on many different levels. And healing is like an onion. There are multiple layers. You heal one, and then another layer suddenly appears where you didn't even know you needed more healing. And then you peel that layer and another comes along. And it really is a journey. So I commend you guys for looking at your relationship, for digging into your relationship and wanting to heal it in a way that is really a place where now you do have sovereignty within your relationship. And I just think that is just a beautiful thing.
My favorite thing about Shipt since I signed up for Target Circle 360, no price markups when I order same-day delivery from tons of local stores. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. I won't lie, I've had too much fun being like, markups on groceries? Not in my fridge. Markups on pet food? Not for my DOG. Markups on tools, electronics, home goods, meds, not in my house. Anyway, it's awesome. Order now at shipped.com/360. Terms apply.
Comcast is committed to bringing access to the internet to all Americans, including rural communities across the country, like Sussex County, Delaware.
We were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward.
Learn more about how we're bringing our next-generation network to more people across the country at ComcastCorporation.com/investment in America.
Your burger is served, and this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that's fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. Breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Hi, welcome to IKEA.
This is my college campus.
Correct, but I see you're on IKEA.com ordering some college items.
My daughter's room is pretty bare. We need a lamp, some comfy pillows, her favorite stuffy.
Dad!
With pickup options, we've got what you need to conveniently order IKEA. Literally anywhere.
Sweet. More time for gaming.
And studying. Wait, where are you going now?
Got to show the ultimate Frisbee team how easy it is to order from IKEA. Get IKEA whenever, wherever, however you want. Choose from thousands of pickup locations, affordable delivery options, and more.
So we are going to do our role play now. I'm so excited about this. And we're going to be talking about going to a play party that's specifically around playing Spin the Bottle and 7 Minutes in Heaven. If you guys remember those games as a kid, right? Those games as adults, it's an adult play party, but we're going to be playing Spin the Bottle and 7 Minutes in Heaven. And what we're going to be doing is role playing the conversation that we have before the party so that we can talk about how we're going to express ourselves in the party and create boundaries so that we can feel safe. As Carolee mentioned, safety many times in this episode, how we can feel safe so that we can have the best time that we can have.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. And action. So I'm curious to know what boundaries each of you would have in order to feel comfortable in such a play party as you're going to be going to.
So I would want to ask, first of all, I didn't know what 7 Minutes in Heaven was. So I would say, hey, what is 7 Minutes in Heaven?
I think it's funny that you're asking me because you would know more.
Or you can have Eve answer that.
Yeah.
Eve, why don't you explain 7 Minutes in Heaven for your audience?
Sure. So Spin the Bottle is where you spin the bottle, right? And then whoever it points to, you have to kiss them. Okay. That's Spin the Bottle in my recollection. All right. And then 7 Minutes in Heaven was where you entered into usually a closet. Or it could be maybe a better space than that as adults. I don't know if you guys went into a bedroom or whatever, but entering into a small space where two people are in it and can play with themselves or play with each other sensually or sexually. And 7 minutes is not a lot of time. I'm sure as kids, we groped each other, touched or whatever, and maybe just giggled and talked and maybe kissed. But that's my recollection of what 7 Minutes in Heaven was as a kid.
So how do you feel about Spin the Bottle?
I'm curious about it. I'm not sure I really want to seriously make out with anybody, but I think that I'm going to be really open to as the bottle spins. I'm totally okay kissing girls or boys. Like girls or boys, it's 7 minutes and having childhood talk, men or women. I have no aversion to either. I'm curious about both. And I just feel like it feels playful and not non-committal. And I'm just excited to see where the bottle lands. And I'm also excited to watch others enjoy that playful game.
Seems fun. How about 7 minutes in heaven? Do you have any boundaries? Like, I feel for myself, I am not interested in like making 7 minutes turn into a penetrative sex experience, but I would probably want to like make out, feel the skin of another person, perhaps do some yoni worship, perhaps touching and cupping the breasts and all that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I agree that the idea of penetration isn't something that I'm interested in receiving or giving. And I think holding that boundary in our own partnership of not doing that when we're in separate spaces feels really aligned for me. So I appreciate that's not your desire. And everything else you mentioned sounds a little bit like an edge. Some of them sound a little bit edgy, but also I really want you to have fun.
Yeah. And are you open to, like, for yourself, I'm curious what your boundaries are in the space of the 7 minutes in heaven, and not just re-articulating what I said, but what are you feeling into?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to feel more into the moment of who I end up being in 7 minutes with, what might come alive in that space. I really like having my hair pulled and being like maybe some hair grabbing or even like an ass spanking, so that there might be some more of that impact play that could happen for me in a 7 minutes of heaven. But I'm open holding. I'm not really interested in penetration, maybe some heavier kissing, maybe if it feels right for the person, but also just letting myself be present with what eros. It's hard for me to project what kind of eros might be alive for me when I don't even know who I'm going to be in the room with. So I think I'm just going to be curious, but also I think in 7 minutes in heaven, I'll probably one of my boundaries might be like my clothes stay on and I'm covered.
Okay. Yeah. I feel good about that.
What about you, Eve? What would you want to do in 7 minutes in heaven?
I love that you brought up the spanking. I think that's a great idea. And hair pulling too. So you're like getting into some of your kinks that you like. And for me, I would be curious about the spin the bottle and kissing girls as opposed to men more, just because I feel like that's one area that I've been wanting to explore more. And same with the 7 minutes in heaven as well. Like I would want to like explore with women more. So I'd be curious to see how that would play out, but just staying open-minded and allowing whoever that other person is when you're in that situation to define how you want to move forward. If it's someone that you feel would be someone that would be great at spanking you, then you could ask for that. Or someone that would be really great at making out or touching you in a certain way, and you can ask for that. So I love the answers that you gave each other about your boundaries. And so I think that was a really fun role play and scene. Okay. I just want to make sure that my listeners can find you. Where can my listeners find you?
Yeah. So our website is The Magical Story of Us. It's where we give a short overview of our journey of healing, which has been, we talked a lot about the deep shadow work and the changes and the deconditioning, but all along the way, when we start tapping into that healing, what we're really doing is tapping back into the magic of life, all the synchronicities, the spiritual miracles that happen through it all. And we experienced that so much. And that's what kept us in the work. We loved all of a sudden, like when we were trying to sell our house, we did this 20-minute spell and that ended up getting the best buyer we could ever get. And so we had so many of those moments. And that's why we call it The Magical Story, because it was magic. It was, to us, it was totally magic. Like, how do we go from these totally suppressed Mormon people that had no education and training around any of this to be fully embodied and feel so connected to the divine and just have a very magical life. And that's what we feel we want to share with others and inspire them. So at The Magical Story of Us, you can learn about our offerings, you can get a link to our podcast, and you can join our mailing list, which will get you in touch with that welcome series you into what we offer. So it's a very easy place to go. It's just a central place to get out all of our information.
And if you liked the idea of understanding your own blueprint right? On there, there's moon magic sessions that I do where I am essentially your astrologer, right? Like I read your unique blueprint and tell you about the upcoming moon phase and give very specific, tailored to each individual that I'm working with information on how to begin a ritual relationship with the moon. So that offering is a very specific offering that we have that can be accessed. Booking a discovery call or just going straight to the offering and getting on the calendar to have your own birth chart illuminated and how to work with your shadow is something that can also be done right there at the Magical Story of Us. And then we have a variety of different social accounts, and all of it is accessible.
One that we started but haven't fully built the momentum up that we see is something called Mystic and Witch. And it's essentially our erotic artistry platform. We use an Instagram, and we do have an OnlyFans page. This is not advertised on our main Magical Story of Us. We're trying to separate that a little bit just because that can be intimidating to some people. But essentially, the OnlyFans page is really an embodiment of artistry. We have these photographers come over and take these really beautiful photos of us, and it's more sensual and fun and playful and flirty and sexy than it is in any way pornographic. We really want to show people that sex and nakedness and all of that can be art, and that's what we love to embody because we just love our bodies and we love taking pictures of them. And so it's a really fun way to see an embodied couple, and that's what we want to do with Mystic and Witch. But that's also on Instagram.
Okay, fantastic. I love that you brought that up as well. And I had a photographer on the show in the past that sort of used photography and boudoir photography specifically as a way to chronicle her own life and get into her body and really love her own body and all of those things. So I think that is such a great thing that you also do for yourself and as a connection point for you as a couple. And then you also have an OnlyFans page that you can also share all of that beautiful artwork with the world. And I agree, nudity is the way that we all came into the world. It's completely the most natural thing. It doesn't have to be sexual. And it's a beautiful place to be when you are fully naked and just free. That's wonderful. I have seen some of your pictures. So I think your thumbnail, some of the ones that I have behind me, is going to be absolutely beautiful. So I can't wait for that. So thank you for that. And I want to just make sure that my listeners can find me as well. I have a website, pleaseme.online, and all of my socials are linked on my contact page. Make sure that if you listen to this episode today and you think that it's something that you would want to share with somebody, that you go ahead and copy and paste it right now and share it with a friend that you think might also benefit from hearing this information. I think it's a beautiful story. Also, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It is the way that podcasts grow, and I appreciate every review that I get, and I read every single one. If you want to call and speak to me, you can call me on the OWL app, and you can use code EH576472 to give me a call and do a free discovery call with me as well. And if you want to work with me, of course, please reach out to me on pleaseme.online. That sends me an email directly. And I would love to be your health coach, your intimacy coach, or your physical therapist to help you with any sexual health conditions that you may have. With that being said, I want to thank you both for being on the show today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It was great.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Until next time, for ad-free listening, exclusive bonus episodes, Eve's library of archived webinars, and early access to new releases of Please Me, become a monthly supporter on Patreon. Simply open the Patreon app on your phone, search for Please Me, and subscribe today for premium content and more. Cheers to finding your pleasure and big clit energy.